Charlie Munger, the man most responsible for Berkshire Hathaway long-term success, had one rule that he used both in life and in investing. And I followed that rule to help me become a much better trader, helping me generate $1,000 every 3 days consistently. What is that rule? I'm Boris Schlossberg. Let's get into it. Those of you who trade with me every single day know my strategy is not very complicated. I trade momentum in trend. And trend, in my case, is very easily determined. All I need is a short-term moving average and a long-term moving average. When the blue is above the red, that's a positive trend. When the blue is below the red, that's a negative trend. And then I need my momentum dots. When I'm in positive trend, I want to be buying the green dots. When I'm in negative trend, I want to be selling the red dots. That's really all there is to it to be able to be successful and consistent trading my strategy. But you know, I have a terrible weakness. I love to pick tops and I love to pick bottoms. So I'm inevitably drawn to trading turns. However, I realized that this was the second greatest mistake I used to make all the time. And when I asked myself the second inversion question, what is the second reason I blow up accounts? It was inevitably because I love to pick turns, especially with large size in my accounts. So I've decided that I'm going to primarily trade on the side of trend. As you can see over here in today's trading, I simply did just that. When the trend was down, I was selling. When the trend was up, I was buying and selling for profit and buying and selling for profit. And it is amazing how just going with the flow provided a consistent profit path throughout the day. There really isn't anything more complicated than just simply doing that, having a great indicator, having the right timing, and then executing the trade in small size so that you have the full control, the full confidence, and the full ability to execute your plan. This is how I was able to consistently generate between $200 to $300 to $400 a day and make $1,000 every 3 days. Now that may not sound like that's a lot of money, but on one single account, that's incredibly lucrative. Because if you can replicate that technique over and over again, you could be doing it on 5, 10, 15, 20 accounts at a time. And that capital really can add up without endangering your overall position. That's the beauty of trading small scalp positions with primarily trend direction. That's really, really critical to how I was able to turn around my trading and make it so much more consistent and so much more profitable. Although I've really reoriented my scalping towards trend these days, it doesn't mean I still don't love to trade turns. The key difference, however, is I've taught myself how to trade turns properly. And this is the third most important inversion that I taught myself when I was creating this new strategy. When I was trading turn unsuccessfully, I asked myself one key question. What is the surest way to make sure that you're wrong on a turn? And the answer became very, very simple. It's basically to pick every single possible sell-off or to pick every single fresh buy-up as a signal of a turn. That couldn't possibly be more wrong, especially in a strong trend formation. So looking at my charts and looking at my indicator and looking at how BFF dots lined up, I realized that when a turn truly comes, it's not simply a single red dot or a single green dot formation. It tends to have lots and lots of continuity in the other direction. So I changed myself completely in how I trade turn now. And I don't even consider making reversal trades until I have 3 consecutive counter trend dots on my chart. Let me give you an example of what I mean. Here's a trend to the upside, right? Strong green dots with occasional red dots. This is a false one. This is a false one. This is a false signal. This is a false signal. You see how short-term sell-offs are really not great signals of a turn. However, once you have 3 consecutive red dots in a row, that's a much more significant, robust signal of a possible turn. And making a short over here really pays off. Similarly, 3 dots in a row over here still creates a continuity move to the downside. And even here, it creates a continuity move to the downside as you can go along. So the most interesting and the most valuable lesson I taught myself is that you can be very patient with a turn. Being late on a turn is not a problem, but being early is. And that was the third most important lesson that I taught myself in becoming much more successful in trading scalp, both in trend and occasionally counter-trend fashion. Trading for $1,000 every 3 days really isn't as complicated as it sounds. You need 3 things. You need a great tool like my BFF Scalper. Link is in the description if you want to come join us. You need to be able to trade primarily with trend. And when you do trade counter-trend, you need to have a very measured and methodical approach of how you want to do this. But most importantly, you need to trade small. Trading small is what really helps you avoid the big blow-ups. And it also helps you recover very quickly from any near-term losses that you may endanger. So, overall, that's really been the solution for me. That's been the consistent effort. Once you realize that small is beautiful in trading, the sky is the limit. Inversion is the art of asking the opposite of a solution. When Charlie was a young man, he worked for the US Air Force, and his job was to generate weather reports for the pilots. So one night he asked himself, what is the surest way that I can kill pilots? Now notice, he didn't ask the question of what is the surest way I can help them, because what he was looking at is finding the most vulnerability that he would need to reduce in order to be able to help pilots. So he zeroed in on 2 things. He knew that if he put pilots in a place where their wings were iced, or where they were so far away from the airport they could not land before they ran out of gas, they were sure to be in danger. And he spent all his time making sure that he would avoid those 2 risks in order to help them succeed. Inversion is an amazing technique because it really flips the problem on its head and makes it much clearer to you what you need to do in order to be a success in any facet of life. When it comes to trading, especially when it comes to prop trading, which is something that I do every single day, as you guys know, I realized that the single easiest way, the single surest way to blow up an account is to trade too large. We've all been there. We've all taken a trade far larger than need be and blown the account within seconds, sometimes over and over and over again. In fact, if I were to bet, the one single reason that almost everyone blows up their account is not because their strategy is bad, not because they don't understand the market, not because they're lazy. It's because they always trade too large. So using inversion, I asked myself, what is the single easiest way for me to kill my prop trading account? And the answer was to trade big contracts only. So I completely changed my attitude and I completely changed my approach. Instead of trading large E-mini S&Ps, large E-mini NASDAQs, large golds, I only traded micro contracts. Yes, $1 a point, $2 a point, half $1 a point. Something that seems so minuscule as to be almost laughable. Yet this one change radically improved my performance, eliminated almost any possibility of me blowing the account, and put me on the path to consistent and profitable success. Charlie Munger helped me invert and understand my greatest flaws in trading. And once I was able to eliminate those, I was able to really unleash my consistent profitability. Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett are probably the last 2 guys in the world you would think would give you good trading advice. But they really do. And the reason is because they give great life advice. And their life advice can be applied to the markets as well as everything else. By using Munger's techniques of inversion, I was able to analyze and zero in on my biggest mistakes and turn them into my biggest successes. I hope you too can use those techniques to figure out what ails you in your trading and improve it as you go along. I'll see you in the markets. Boris Schlossberg, over and out.